Good morning, everybody. It's Kristina Dennis, the Transformational Self-Empowerment Master. And I want to talk a little more about thoughts today. I discussed that yesterday saying, I wanted to come in and talk a little more about thoughts and the agency of our thoughts. And if you remember earlier this week, I discussed, creating agency for yourself and realizing, observing yourself, making decisions, making choices, thinking about how that feels. Thinking on purpose was another thing that I brought up this week and discussing it. And then I wanted to talk about how powerful thoughts are and a couple of fun facts that I learned this week. And one of them, I brought up that the National Science Foundation says we have 70,000 thoughts and only 5% of them are new. That means that we are ruminating on 95% of our thoughts. And if we don't take action to change our thoughts or to think on purpose, we can run on autopilot. And autopilot brings us to where we've always been. That definition of insanity, doing what you've always done, expecting different results. And you have to change that, right? You have to change things. You have to become better to have a better life. And so why are thoughts so important? Well, they change your perspective, they change your judgment, they change your decision making, and they actually change your brain. And so thinking on purpose, affirmations, thinking about positive things, remember the joy journaling, catching things that are right so your reticular activation system goes in the next day and makes you think about things that are good. The negative bias we have, we're learning so much about our brain. I heard something that I did not realize, that positive psychology did not get studied, did not really become a science or an interest in science until 1998. That was the year that I was first sober. And I think, gosh, in 22 years, we have done all of this. And man, isn't it fascinating to know that science is catching up with what I think all of us already knew? We change our thoughts, you change your body, you change physiology, you can change anything in your life, and including, forgiving and grieving and, the perspective that we have. I have a dear friend going through something that's incredibly painful, and it breaks my heart that she is going through it. However, I know that our Creator is sovereign, and she'll be okay. She said, the fairness of it is all over the place. And I so relate to that, because so many years I felt like things were incredibly unfair, and they were. And that is the way it is. And, they're unfair to many other people. I've been given and afforded a lot of really positive things in my life as well. And so thinking about those and thinking about how I can have purpose, or how I'm going to change my perspective about fairness, or not have it even concerned us. So when we're talking about positive thoughts, I also want to talk about self-talk and words. And you may feel silly writing affirmations down. I know I do sometimes still. I feel silly sometimes saying out loud things, but I have been really careful, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, to choose my words carefully. And there's a famous interview of Nelson Mandela, and I just want to share this because it's a perspective that I needed. And this person asked, Mr. Mandela, how did you survive 27 years in prison? And apparently he got very serious, and he said, I didn't survive, I prepared. And I thought, wow, incredibly different, right? The word preparation versus surviving. And I can look back at times in my life where things were really, really difficult, and I felt like surviving was all I needed to do. And I didn't have the perspective at that time to prepare. I'm not sure Mr. Mandela did at the beginning. But I love that idea that I'm not going to approach challenges in my life with, the thought that I have to just survive. And I've heard people say, I thrived instead of survived. I'm going to call BS on that in my life. There were things that I wasn't thriving in. I was just surviving in. And but I can look at them with preparation as the word. I can look at my life with preparation, and I can approach things now with the perspective, because I spent the time doing the interior work and exercising the emotional muscles and my nervous system and changing things, that when challenges arise, that I am meeting them and I'm preparing myself for future challenges, because I want things to get bigger and I want to grow, and I want and that only happens through challenges and changes in our life. And you can't have changes and stay on autopilot. That's very painful. And this is very interesting. Our brain is designed to do that. Our brain is designed to find the shortcuts, develop patterns that we're really comfortable with, and stick with them, and then continue to look for more patterns that reinforce that. So this work isn't easy, but boy, is it rewarding. And because life is the way it is, and because we are all fraught with challenges in our lives, why not take on the perspective? Once you've done the appropriate grieving, always need to feel your feelings and get through them. But why not take on the perspective that I am being prepared for greater things? I'm being prepared for situations in the future that will call upon this perspective, this character that's being built in me. So I just wanted to put that out there. Pretty fascinating, right? And just a nicer way, a softer way. When you're preparing, you're calmer, you're systematic, you are thinking ahead, and you are making sure everything is covered. When you're surviving, for me, when I was surviving, I was angry, and as my friend said, fairness was all over my thoughts, and it was very painful. So I hope everybody has a great day today, and I'm going to take the weekend off from blabbing. That's not a nice way to say it. I'm going to take the weekend off from videoing my thoughts and hopefully these kinds of uplifting and encouraging messages. And I will see you all next week. Hope you have a great weekend, and you take care of yourself, and you think on purpose, and you show other people who you really are. Love you. Bye.